Yeah, so I hated running. I never thought I would run more than maybe a mile or two, maybe three here and there after high school. I mean, I think it was early on in high school that we did like our final like mile test. I think once you got to like sophomore year, like they just stopped doing that or whatever. But yeah, I used to hate the cross country guys. I used to look at the coaches and look at I ran club cross country back in middle school just for fun because I had nothing else to do in the fall, and I played lacrosse in the spring. And I would look at these guys and go, yeah, dude, I never want to look like that. The short shorts, the skinny arms. And I was like, dude, I can't see myself, ever striving to be like that kind of guy. And it's kind of crazy because back in high school, I was early on in high school. I was probably about 150 pounds soaking wet, very skinny. I got to like 5'10" in high school at some point. Maybe when I was like junior or senior year. That's where I stopped. I stopped. Maybe I can still grow. I don't know. But hopefully, maybe I can stretch a little longer, do some dead hangs and extend my spine and get an extra like half inch. But I'm 5'10" now and about 175 pounds, 177 pounds, or 176.2 as of this morning, if I remember correctly. And really, since that period in high school, I had only been worried about lifting weights because I had more like mass on my lower half, I would say. Nothing like insane, but 150 pounds, pretty lean. I don't know what body fat percentage I was. Wasn't doing DEXA scans at the time, but my most recent one, I was actually 19.2, I think, percent body fat. And that was back in October, which I still thought was pretty high. But at the same time, even if it was accurate or if it's close to accurate, I think it goes to show how people overestimate or underestimate their body fat percentage. But yeah, I was just focused on building muscle in high school and beyond. And I thought that's the play. It's for the aesthetics. It's not about functionality. And then as time has gone on, I've come around to more functionality. In terms of what changed or like what switch was flipped to get me into running, it probably goes back. It was kind of a culmination of things, I think, but it definitely goes back to being in Austin, Texas. And back in Austin, Texas, I had kind of put myself in a tough situation where I graduated in May of 2020 from Penn State. I moved to Austin in August of that same year. So at the time, I had nearly $200,000 in student debt, and then have accumulated or had accumulated in the coming years after that another 25 to 50,000 in debt. I know once all said and done, after interest is all paid, I'll likely be paying back over $250,000 in total debt. Some of that student loans, or not some, the large majority student loans, and then some even credit card debt. Other minor, well, I guess that's the only other thing that there is, or that there was, because I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and we moved to downtown. It was cheap. No one was moving to the city. Everyone was leaving the city because it was COVID. And then prices rose. My income plummeted. I was self-employed, and I didn't really build a foundation to what I was doing at the time. Now I have a much larger diversification of my self-employed income, whether I'm contracted for certain companies, working part-time with this company, or doing my own things, my own endeavors, my own, you can call it a business if you want to call it a business, ventures. It all makes money. So I have much more of a foundation versus when I had back then. So I kind of left college and was like, oh, I can do it on my own. And I did, but wasn't necessarily the best financial decision, or I guess things happened and like I didn't really foresee what was going to happen. But now I've learned so much from that. And 2 years after moving or living in Austin, we moved into this new apartment and we signed a 16-month lease. And at the time, that was probably a dumb decision because looking back, we kind of both knew we were not going to be together in the like somewhat near future. Like we're kind of just going our own ways and kind of like we were just kind of doing this, And it became more and more clear and more apparent to me as time had gone on. But we signed that lease. I signed the lease and kind of suckered myself into that. I then left like 3/4 of the way or maybe 2/3 of the way through the lease, still paying my half of the rent, but I just kind of left and was like, I can't do this anymore. And in that period, when we made that move, I was in the most debt that I had ever been in. And I had been slowly building back my income to like building that base. But the thing is, when you're building that base, just like anything else, whether it's endurance, whether it's lifting, I guess lifting, you can see results pretty fast. But when you're building that base initially, like you're not seeing a lot of results. So, you know, you're kind of setting the foundation like, okay, I think I should do this. I think I should do this to set my future up. But I didn't really know, or I wasn't reaping much reward from that. I now am, as I have a much more stable base. But back then I didn't. And so you pair that with student loans now becoming due and my minimum payment on my loan being over $1,100 a month, you know, on top of rent and on top of food and everything else, expenses and stuff, it starts to be like, okay, like we got to change something. That, as well as I felt as if I was also in like a physical rut. And I don't want to say I got bored. I've never gotten bored of lifting, to be honest. But as crazy as that sounds, like almost 10 years into like lifting weights from the first time I ever touched a weight, I've never gotten bored of it. Like I really enjoy it. I still have a passion for like getting in the gym, and like I'm super excited to try to PR on movements and like make that incremental progress, because it never ends. Like you can technically infinitely continue to progress. Technically, it gets harder. But that's also what everyone says, and that's what you put in your brain. And so I just needed to change. I just needed to do something, to work on something new, because I kind of had like lifting was kind of just part of my life. And I was like, okay, I just do this. I go to the gym 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, and that's it. And so I kind of went out for a run. I was trying to lose a few pounds. I think I got up to about 180, 182 pounds maybe. And for me, for my weight and for my height, 182 pounds, a little bit of fluff on you. You know, it's not like super, super lean, super diced at all. So for the amount of muscle mass that I had on my frame, it just didn't look like what I wanted to. And I didn't feel amazing about it either, if I'm being honest. And so I used running initially as a way to kind of get into a deficit and kind of like burn a little more calories and like lean out a little bit. And I got down to like 170-ish. I've been bouncing around between 170, 177, 178 over the past maybe like 2 years now. And it's been good. I think I've definitely put on more muscle. Obviously, I haven't tested with DEXA scans, which I've now been doing. So now we'll be able to see over time. I think it's incremental, like very small amounts, but I think I've put on some more. So now my current physique at like 175 looks a lot leaner than my physique at 175 maybe 3 years ago, because I've just incrementally put on a little bit more muscle mass. And so my body fat percentage at the same exact weight is lower now. It's my speculation. Again, haven't tested it specifically with data, but that's what I would say. And so combination of all these things, I was kind of like, I want to change. And so I started running, and then you pair that up with seeing some documentaries. I saw some documentaries about Leadville 100, and then I don't know how, but for some reason I stumbled across the Cocodona 250 live stream back in 2023, May. As I am filming this video, I have the live stream on my computer right now, like literally right here. And it's about to, the leader's about to cross the finish line in the next probably 2 hours or so. And it's kind of an interesting point to be like making this video, because that kicked it off 100%. Like that is what got me into it. I saw that, and I saw incredible people doing incredible things in incredible places. And I was like, oh, like that's also running. Like that's not what I used to think running was. And really from this point, or from that point on 2 years ago, I've run a couple times a week, every week, at least. Not every day, but a couple times a week, every week since then. Now, the most logical thing to do at the time was to sign up for an ultramarathon. Having done like a local turkey trot 5K, maybe at most, in my like hometown in middle school, I thought, okay, the next logical thing is not a 10K, not a half marathon, not a marathon. No, we're going to go ultra. And so I signed up for this ultra marathon that just so happened to also be part of the Leadville 100 kind of series, meaning if you placed top in your age group, you get an automatic qualifier into Leadville the next year. Or then they have like I think a bunch of lottery slots. Like if you finish within the cutoff, at the end, you stay to the end, they have a lottery and you get, entered to the lottery and you could win a ticket to Leadville essentially. Still got to pay, but you get in because it's a lottery every year. There's so much more demand than they have spots in the race. And I was like, oh, well, I guess we can try that. Not really looking to get into Leadville, but like I knew of Leadville and that's how I kind of found the race. And I was like, okay, let's try this. And so I did that, and it was the hardest thing I'd ever done at that point in my life. But for whatever reason, I finished that. A couple of days go by, you get over the soreness, you kind of start, walking around, not limping as much. And I was hooked. What I think makes ultras so appealing to me is kind of what I said before, this idea that you could run in incredible places with incredible people and just do incredible things and then go back to your everyday life like it's nothing. Like these people are doing this stuff and they also have jobs. Like most people who run ultras do not run professionally. It's because the passion, it's because the inspiration of where you're running, discovering a new place. That's what it is. And so as I've progressed in time and I've picked new races, every race that I've picked almost has it has a purpose, whether it's to see something I've never seen that I think is cool. Like there's an attraction like physically to the place where I run or where I pick an ultra. And I think that's the most attractive part to running ultras and to running in general. Like running on the road is, it's okay. It's fine. It's better than nothing. But running in the woods, up or climbing a mountain and running down, I guess you could run up mountains and, that's a form of pretty high intensity cardio for yourself right there. But it attracts me, and there's some sort of feeling, an adrenaline when bombing a downhill. And then when you get into a rhythm and you're kind of just clicking off miles at a nice steady pace, there's that high, there's that feeling of like, I can literally do anything. And I'm not a big substance a guy. And so I never like had a thing where it's like, oh, I get my high, I get my fix. But if I do now, I guess it's kind of running. There was a race I ran out, Wild West Marathon. I ran the 50 mile. It's called a marathon. They have a bunch of different distances. I ran the 50 mile. It's in Lone Pine. It starts in Lone Pine, goes to the Alabama hills, goes to the base of Mount Whitney, or like the bottom of it kind of, before you go up the road. And then back down and around and the whole thing. I think it was the most incredible race from a view and a scenery perspective I've ever done. It was mind-boggling how beautiful it was. And that was like, looking back, it's like, who cares about how many miles, how much it hurts? Like, just look around, open your eyes. It's like, this is Earth. Like, this is amazing. This is so cool. I wouldn't have seen this had I not signed up for this race. But the race progressed, and I ran with my sister for the first half. First 25 miles of my course was the same as hers, and she ran a 50K. And so we were kind of, I was kind of pulling her along and moving, but I knew as I kind of split with her and she headed to finish up and, and all that, I knew that like I kind of had to negative split the back half. And at that point it was like, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe it was like noon. Let's say it was like midday. Let's say it was 12. And I had 6 hours to finish this race that to this point had taken me, I think, at that point, at least 6, maybe 7 hours. I think it started at 5 a.m., if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, okay, so I have to go faster on the back half now in the heat of the day. I will mention it was 90 something degrees. It was insane. And there's no trees, there's no shade. It's all exposed. I have to now go faster on the back half than I did the front half. And I'm going to be alone. There was like a handful of people left on the course who signed up to do the 50 miler. Because, of course, people like us are crazy anyway. And I'm going along, and I get to this point where I get to the last aid station, and there's 45 minutes, maybe less, like 40 minutes until the cutoff. And I had to go about 4.5 miles at that point. And you think to yourself, okay, 4.5 miles, 40 minutes, let's call it roughly 10-minute miles. If we can rip 10-minute miles, we can get there. And I thought to myself, looking down at my watch, looking at my average pace was like 16:30 throughout the entirety of it. And that's counting stops and everything. You know, the climbs up, the steeper climbs up, the stops, bathroom breaks, you know, all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, not only do I have to pretty much take my average pace for the entire race, cut it in half, and run that to the finish line, I have to do this after I've ran 47 miles, which at that point, I had done a 50 miler before, which ended up being like 58, 60 miles. Honestly, who the hell knows in the freaking woods of North Georgia? That thing was freaking crazy. Cruel Jewel, shout out Cruel Jewel 50, Cruel Jewel 100. I'll be back for you at some point. I have the belt behind me here. I will come back for the buckle one day. I will do it. But like at that point in the race, there was no running. Like if there was running the last few miles on the road into the finish line of that race in Georgia, my experience was it was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I just wanted to be done. And at least I had a flat surface to run on. This was up and down. It was net downhill. So I had that going for me in California. But it was loose, jagged rock everywhere. So just think of like massive like rock, sharp, that you could just like jam your feet into, just black and blue toes popping off, you know, toenails. Like those are the types of rocks we're talking about. Uneven surfaces on just a body that was I was destroyed. I was out there for, at that point, 12 or 13 plus hours. Like I was destroyed at that point. Been in the heat all day long, probably dehydrated. Probably definitely hadn't eaten nearly enough calories, because at that point in the day, it's like, it's so hot. I have not been eating enough, and I haven't been drinking enough. My body doesn't want it, even though I need it. It's like I need an IV, but you can't get an IV mid-race. And I have to do something that I've never done. To be honest, most of my training to that point, too, had been running at 10-minute mile pace. You know, to be honest, a lot of the mountainous or the trail runs were north of a 10-minute mile pace, because when you add in the ups and the downs and the technicalities, I was not running those at sub 10-minute miles. So I had to do something that I physically had only done in very small batches in my training. Like there was only a couple of times where I was like coming down hills at a decent clip, you know, decently under 9-minute pace. And I would only do that for like very short stints in my training, because I didn't have areas that were like huge multiple mile downhills on technical terrain. But somehow, like, it wasn't an option in my head to miss the cutoff. I don't know. It wasn't an option. And somehow I go back to that in my head, and I distinctly remember those periods, and it was the most, looking back, beautiful place. I mean, like I go back to that, and like I picture coming down some of those trails into the town of Lone Pine. And I mean, I like look around in my head, and I'm like, it was sick. The sun was setting. Like, it was sick. I was feeling sick. I wasn't feeling like this. I wasn't able to take it all in and like look around. I was like, we gotta go. And somehow I did it. I made it there before the cutoff. I made it to the end with like 8 minutes to spare, something like that. I don't know. But what it taught me was, this guy right here is very, very powerful. A lot more powerful than you think. And you can talk yourself in and out of a lot of things as long as you know how to use this guy. And what I found is that this applies to a lot of other aspects in life, not just running ultras, because it's very easy for you to not even know what you're capable of if you never get to these depths of like mental fatigue And I don't even know what you want to call it, to be honest. But that period in the race, the periods in the mountains of Georgia, pitch black at night, headlamp on, raining, cold, mud on the trails. Like, you go to a different place. And when you come out of that, you look back and you look around, you look inside your head and you go, holy shit. Like, we could do that. Like, oh, that's a thing. Like, I didn't know it was possible. I had never done it. But now I did it. And so many other aspects of my life, it's only recently, past couple months, that I've been able to apply that to and start to see the noticeable changes, downstream of those mental shifts, I should say. And that definitely has me coming back, because that's cool. That's really cool. Honestly, I have a lot of future plans and goals going forward with this running thing. All trails, no marathons in sight. Everything is ultra or ultra distance or longer. I signed up for a 74-ish mile race, the Georgia Death Race in North Georgia for next year. I signed up for a 50K in Alabama. That would be a potential qualifier for Leadville for next year. I'm eyeing a 100-miler in Arizona, and I'm also, as I'm speaking right now, I'm going to sign up for the Cocodona 250 next spring. Sign up is in about 2 weeks from when I'm filming this video. So hopefully we can sign up for that and lock that plan in. So it's pretty big plans. I'm very excited for it. I'm not necessarily thinking that I have competitive goals in these events, but what I have noticed in, for example, Cruel Jewel 50, I believe I placed top half in that race. And going in, I didn't know if I could finish it. I really didn't. Based on, I knew the cutoffs was pretty fair, but I didn't know if I could go that far. Because prior to that, I'd only done a 50K. So like my longest distance is like 32 miles. And I almost doubled that from race to race. So like in February, I ran a race that was 32 miles. Then I ran Cruel Jewel, it was like upper 50s, nearly 60 miles. So like nearly double. I did it. And I don't think I trained, to be honest, enough going in. And I think I've got such better training approach now that just like integrates it a lot better into my day-to-day life and structure, time on feet and stuff. And I'm like, if I place top half, and I don't think I trained enough for it, and I train longer, I'm like, maybe I can finish top quarter and be like, not necessarily competitive with like the elites, but be up there. And I think ultra running, from the way that I want to live and from my background in just lifting weights and strength training, it fits so much better, because you have to be much more of a rugged athlete or individual to complete these events, because you need muscle. You need to be able to pick your ass up off the ground after tripping over a rock or a branch at mile 62 and not collapse back to the ground. So I think it fits me really well. And I've had this just deeper connection to nature and to just the outdoors as of late. And I'm really excited for it. I still lift weights, but I've run a lot more in there as well. And I wouldn't change a thing.